Hello and welcome to our UiPath online RPA series. We have a work template and you want to change the name placeholder with the person you want to give this certificate to, and then you want to email the person. If one certificate takes 30 seconds, imagine how much time will you be able to save if you had to do 300 certificates. So let's see how UiPath Studio can automate this workflow for us.
So let's go to our Activities tab. It's in the back icon. Go to the filters and make sure that Classic is enabled. If you do not see Classic, that means that the dependencies has not been installed. So click on this button, which says Manage Packages. Go to All Packages, type in UiPath.UiAutomation.activities. Click on this, install, press Save. Now click on the Filter tab and you will see that the Classic is available now. Make sure that it is enabled and let's begin automating. Every automation begins with a sequence. So what are we trying to accomplish in this automation? There are two parts. The first part is the certificates. We need to have two things in our checklist. Here, you would see certificate template, email template, and participant list. Let's do it step by step. We will only focus on these two. Open this up. You should have something like this because you want to print out certificates or thank you cards to your friends or for your employees. So your certificate may look something similar like this. It doesn't have to be the same as mine, but as a general rule of thumb, you would have a name placeholder and you would change this based on the person's name. And it is always a good practice to have curly brackets on your placeholder. So the next thing you need to have is your participant list. This would contain the name and the email of the people you want to give and send the certificate to. So this is just a sample. I'm just using myself and my friend's name, but you can have your own list and your own certificate template. So let's do step by step mimicking. What would we do if we were to do this manually? Well, the first thing is I would copy this name and paste it here. And this looks a little weird because companies prefer to have the names in capital letters. So there's a trick in Microsoft Word to do this. But I'm going to show you later that when you do the UiPath programming, it's going to be done in just one line of code. That is really simple. So after you're done, what will you do? You will click on File, Export, and save this to a PDF. And then you save it somewhere and you will grab that PDF and send it to this person's email. So that's one whole chunk. We're going to automate the whole process. Okay, let's undo our changes. So now that we have these three resources, we need them somewhere. For simplicity, I'm going to insert them into the project folder. Where's the project folder? Go to UiPath, click on this tab, right click here, open project folder. And I'm going to drag these three files inside here so that it is easier. One more thing, we are going to generate certificates. Where should we store them? Let's store them here. Right click and create a new folder and call it certificates. So all the certificates in PDFs will be saved here. Let's begin with our automation. The first thing we need to do, UiPath must talk to this participant list Excel file. So there is probably something to do with a read range workbook. But you will not be able to find it because the package has not been installed. So click on Search in Available Packages, go to All Packages, type in Excel, install this, and press Save. Now you should be able to find Read Range Workbook. Drag and drop it inside here. So remember to annotate your workflows. F2, participant list. There are three things we must input into this activity so your robot knows which Excel file it should talk to. The workbook path is in the project directory, which is here. So all you need to do is just type in strings, so double quotation mark, participant list.xlsx. This is the file extension. What is the sheet name? Let's take a look. The sheet name is sheet 1 and the starting cell is cell A1. So type in that in double quotation marks because it is expecting a string. After it reads the data table, it needs to give us a variable so the robot knows how to talk to the variable. So in this program, there is an output data table. We need to create a variable so that we can do simple programming to manipulate the data and send it over to Microsoft Word later. So we have to create a data table. To create a variable, press on your keyboard Ctrl K and you will see the set variable appears. Remember in our previous video, a good practice of naming your variables. For data table variables, we always prepend dt underscore in front of it. Now let's give this a meaningful name. Let's just call it participant list. Now we can do a little programming to automate the rest of the process. What needs to be done? Let's see the participant list again. In your robot, it has a data table variable consisting of 2 columns and 4 rows. We need to do something for each row. For Ernest Ng, it must grab this information, paste it in the certificate, and then later send this certificate to my email. And then it will go to Tan Tiong Guan, grab this information, do the same thing here, send it to his email. And for Tam Kaiser, and send it to his email. So we are doing this for 1 row, for 2 rows, for 3 rows. That means that we are using a for each row. And you can see for each row in data table. Drag and drop it here. The data table is dt underscore. You don't have to type the whole thing because it appears here. So you can just click on this or tab and it will appear. What is this item name? Current row. This is a local variable, which means that this variable is only accessible in this activity. This local variable allows us to call properties in the data table. That is, it can communicate to this column and this column. What do I mean by that? I will explain soon. So before we do anything, we want to have our program optimized. So you will see developers who prefer to change this to lowercase row instead of typing uppercase current row. And the reason why is because we will keep on typing row, we will keep on typing this local variable every time. So to save time, this is a shortcut. The next thing we need to do is to replace this text in your certificate to the first person's name. How do we do that? There is an activity called replace text in Word document, but you will not be able to find it because the package has not been installed. Search for all packages, find Word, and you will see this, install, save. And now you should be able to find the activity, replace text. Now, if you drag and drop this activity inside, there's one more thing that is missing. This must be enclosed in a Word applications scope. So find Word application scope, drag and drop it above, and place the replace text activity inside. Why is this needed? For the automation to work, the Word document must be open when the robot is running. So the word application scope opens this document, and this replace text will search for this and replace it with the name. So the file path for this is just the name of the certificate. So copy this in double quotations, certificate template, and don't forget your file extension, .x. Remember to annotate. Replace text, what do we want to replace? Replace the name placeholder. So it's going to search for a string name. And what do we want to replace it by? We want to replace it with this person's name. How do we do that? We are in the first row because this is going to be a loop. Once it executes the first row, it will go to the next and then it will go back up and go down again. So it will do this in a loop until there are no more rows. So to talk to this, I have to call this local variable called row. So replace it with row. This means that we are talking to the local variable, bracket, double quotation marks, name. One more thing, dot to string. And this will give you Ernest Ng. But remember, we want this to be uppercase. So we have to add dot to upper. That's it. This is the formula. The last thing is to save this as a PDF. So find save document as PDF. And you will find this, drag and drop, and we have to save it somewhere. Remember, in our project folder, we have created this certificates folder. So we want all our certificates to be saved inside here. In the file path, we need to include where do we go to get there and the name of the file we want to save it into. So perhaps if I were to just do this manually and I save this file, export, create PDF, and I save this into certificates, perhaps a good way is to name this as Ernest Ng. Okay, so this is also the name of the person, so we can just use this. But one more thing is we need to traverse inside this folder. So everything here is expecting a string. So you may be wondering, why isn't this in double quotation marks? Because this whole thing is a string. I have converted the item inside here to a string. This is a string. I am converting this item to an uppercase string. This is still a string. That's why we don't need to enclose this in double quotation marks. So, but the thing that we need to enclose in double quotation marks is the file path to certificates. Go to the front and press enter. Open quotation marks, certificates, and slash. Right arrow, space, plus, space. So, can you see how this would connect the name of the file to the file path, certificates? It will go here and save it as the name of the person. But we are still missing one more thing. Do you see what we are missing? We are missing the file extension. So plus, space, enter, double quotation marks, .pdf. Now you don't have to have 3 rows of code. You can actually just have them all in one line if you can read it. I personally prefer when it's short for it to be in one line, but when you have more complicated code, it's a good practice to have them in multiple lines so that it's easier for you and other developers to read. In this case, it's a pretty simple code, so one line is totally fine. Save. We have done quite a bit. Let's run our program to see whether it works. To run the program, ensure that everything that the robot is going to touch is closed. So close this, and close this. Run. The program has run without any errors. But if you are quick, you might be able to spot a tiny error that will happen. What error is that? I go to my certificates tab. I can see 3 certificates. Ernest Ng would show the name Ernest Ng nicely. Okay? But what do you think will happen to Tan Tiong Guan and Tam Kai Tse? If I open that, both of them, the names will also be my name, Ernest Ng. Strange. Why is that so? That's pretty strange, right? Well, let's do some debugging. I'm going to open the certificates template, and I'm going to realize that when the robot manipulates the first row and change the name placeholder to Ernest Ng, and it saves it as a PDF and exit the activity, and when it goes to the second row, Tan Tiong Guan, it goes here, and it is going to search for the name placeholder, but it is not found. It is currently changed to Ernest Ng. That is the problem. There is nothing to replace. So that's why all of them will be Ernest Ng. What should we do to give this a quick fix? It's not going to be a very complicated. All you need to do is to go to this Word Application Scope activity, go to the right, and remove autosave. That's all. Change it back to name placeholder and delete everything inside the certificates because we don't want a clash. But of course, we have replaced existing, so it will still work. So let's run. So the first one, Ernest Ng, Tan Tiong Guan, Tam Kai Tse, and it's all saved as a PDF inside here. Great. So our automation has worked. This is the first part. The second part is to send the certificate to their email. So let's take a look at the email template. Dear placeholder name, congrats on completing the RPA masterclass, blah, 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 blah. So you can see that there's going to be a similar activity replacing this placeholder, right? Okay, so let's do the same thing. I'm going to be lazy, okay? I'm not going to create a new Word application scope, a new replace text, and a new, well, I won't have this, but I'm going to be lazy, okay? What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this activity, Control C, and click below it. Oops, click below it, Control V. Open it up, you will have the two of the same activities. Now we know that this will not be needed because we won't save this the email as a PDF. So remove this. Change the annotation to email message template. Change the file path respectively. So this will change to email. And we are replacing the name with this. That's all. It's pretty fast. The trick here is if you can reuse a previously done activity, just do it. It will save you lots of time. The next thing we need to do is to send the email. Now, to send an email, you will need to open your Microsoft Edge, go to Outlook, or for me, I would go to my Outlook app and then click on Control N, type the names of the email, the subject, and press send. Now, will you expect the robot to do those to do those selectors here and there? Well, the answer is no. UiPath and Microsoft has a handshake. So this is a little bit technical and wacky, but it just means that it's able to send emails by sending requests underneath the hood without you seeing it. So the activity is called Outlook, but you won't be able to find it. So search in available packages, type in mail, and find uipath.mail.activities. Install, save. Okay, let's search for Outlook. And you would see use desktop Outlook app. Drag and drop it below. We are still in the for each row activity. So this is inside this activity. Okay, you can use your default email account, reference it as Outlook, and to do what is in a do, the do is send email. So click on this, class under the classic, drag it inside here. The account is Outlook. The tool is, can you guess what it is? The tool is the email inside the participant list. So previously it was, if you can't remember, look at what we done previously, role name dot to string. So now it is going to be role email dot to string. So role email dot to string. You can leave this empty. There would be a subject, so perhaps you can use congrats on your accomplishment. You can choose it. Okay. The body of the email would be a Word document. And the Word document we are going to use is this one. So copy and paste this file path. And the attachment would be the file path of the certificate. I'm not going to type the whole thing again, so I'm just going to be lazy, go back up, scroll down, and copy this whole thing and paste it here. Okay, one more thing. You may notice a slight problem here. In the body of the email, previously in the first certificate template, I told you that we need to close the autosave. But for the email template, if you turn the switch off, all of the emails would not have the person's name inside. So what should we do? If we turn this on, then the first person, Ernest, would get the name Ernest Ng, but the other two will also have Ernest Ng inside. So what's a quick fix? Is to copy the previous Word application scope, copy it, go below the email, paste it, and I'm going to switch the positions of these two. So after the email is being sent, the name will be reverted back to the generic placeholder. Okay, run the workflow. And the emails have been sent. The last thing to take note is that if you have a auto signature whenever you create new emails, you might want to remove this inside the email template. Or you could remove your auto signature in Outlook if you want to use the one in the Word template. To do that, search for signature and you can modify it here. That is the end of the certificate and email automation.